So welcome to the Centrepiece today. And we're very lucky indeed to have this special session with Friedel, Kloke, and we're continuing our roots of sacred dance. This is, for me, very important part of sacred dance is to look at where the history lies and those people who have brought us these dances in this larger circle globally, and recognize that what has happened in the past, so that we can understand ourselves. And it's a very personal journey, I know, for Friedel, as she's the one who's been involved for such a long time. And so for this, we'd like to do what we usually do. Before we bring Friedel onto the screen, we'd like to tune in around the centerpiece. So if you have a candle, this is the time to go and get your light to light up the centerpiece. For us today as well. So we have Friedel, it's adventure for you today. Is it an adventure back to your time with Bernard, possibly? I don't know, but we'll put that on the centerpiece. Alongside a blessing. And we have the blessing of authority. Can we see this?
Yes, okay.
And so we'll put these down here. We'll take our hands across the globe and around the centerpiece.
And you see, when I talk about the time with Bernard Wosien, or also the start of sacred dance, he never called it sacred dance. He called it Meditation des Tanzes, meditation of the dance, and Meditation en croix. But sometimes I feel like a caller in the desert, because of course, so many people refer to Bernard Wosien. They've never seen him, never heard him, never anything. And so I meet a lot of stories and they surprise me, I say the least. And but I want to tell you about my encounter with him. And I start, you see, that it was for me, it changed my whole life when I met Bernard Wosien, and when I did Meditation en croix, classical ballet training with him for the first time. And so as my daughter Saskia was writing, I was shocked when I had the first classical ballet lesson with him, because I was used in the ballet hall, you have to be quiet, you never talk. The only one who talks is the teacher, but they just say jeté or the lesson. But Bernard Wosien kept on talking. And I thought, for goodness sake, be quiet. And but after a while, I realized what he was saying. So his whole philosophy, he was giving while he was teaching. And he also had, at the time, we had cassettes. And he often had pushed the button at the wrong time. So there were holes in the music, but he didn't mind. He just went on. But for me, when we did the Meditation en croix, and it was this three-step scale, apprentice, journeyman, and master, and the dance meditation developed by him, he pointed to a spiritual goal, and thus opened to me the religious dimension of the dance, which before it was not. I was dancing classical ballet from my when I was 5 years old, and it was always body and training and all these sort of things. And Bernard Wosien says spirituality means to observe happenings such as dance from heaven above. And when I was sometimes in the weekends, as I had 3 children and no money. So I went with the train during the night to dance with him for 1 day. And next day, night, I took the train back home because I couldn't afford to have a babysitter so long. And then I had to sell my piano to be able to pay the workshops. And in 1983, he wrote to me, "I have to tell you again how grateful I am to have found you. We are so intrinsically united, which made the days at Findhorn unforgettable." And in May 1983, he wrote, "I am full of veneration and love for you, and I know I should have told you so a long time ago. Meeting you is a beautiful and pure gift from God, which helps to deepen and expand our work on and with people." It's a very important sentence, I find. Which helps to deepen and expand our work on and with people. I'd like to tell you how grateful I am for our deep understanding, you, my Friedel. With love and blessings, your master. And at the last telephone call, he said, which then he was then very ill, he was telling me, referring to a poem by Rainer Maria Rilke, "I lived my life in increasing circles." And this poem was composed by Joseph Rösli, and I choreographed the dance Stufen, that means steps of initiation, and also to the music of Uli Führer. And then Bernard went on, when a dancer ceased by rhythm, walking, jumping, and turning into the light, has endured his way, when he has walked through sorrow and pain and much exhaustion, but has found in it new strength, he is able to say, even if he does not complete the final circle, "I saw God silently on the dark path through the labyrinth through which he guided me to my inner self." That was my encounter with Bernard Wosien. But then, when Bernard Wosien met Sir George Trevelyan, the British educational pioneer and a founding father of the New Age movement, and he was also a Morris dancer, they met each other at a folk dance festival in Germany. It was quite a historical moment. These 2 white-haired men shared many memories and experiences, quite unmistakable, as Sir George was somewhat hard of hearing. And they shared about their affiliation with the Wandervogel. The Wandervogel is in England called wandering bird, referring to a magical, free and weightless bird. And they protested against industrialization and by going to hike in the country and commune with nature in the woods. And they were also, according to historians, a major contribution to the Wandervogel was the revival of folk songs and folk dance in wider German society. And at the end of this festival, Sir George invited Bernard Wosien to Findhorn. Before Wosien went to Findhorn for the first time, his daughter had just published a book in England called Sacred Dance, Encounter with the Gods. So a connection was made between this book and the dances of Wosien. But when he was greeted as Sacred Dance Master, he was greatly astonished and amazed. He always talked about meditation en croix and meditation of the dance. When Bernard Wosien and I taught in Findhorn at an Easter festival in 1983, he was asked to talk about sacred dances, and that is what he did. I translated his speech, and later Jill Welfare corrected my translation. So this one I really want to read to you because it's so essential what he said in this speech. We are quite often asked, why do you call your dances sacred dances? And with what justification? Surely the concept of sacred contains the idea of sanctifying or of holiness, or something on a high religious plane. To link the quality of sacred or sanctifying with, of all things, the dance is shocking to many, especially those who consider themselves Christians. This attitude stems from the negative attitude towards the human body in some Christian churches that proclaim the body is the grave of the soul. Those people cannot see and acknowledge that the human being is a sensuous spiritual being that can express a direct and spontaneous joie de vivre through the medium of dance, and can reveal all the inner emotions of his soul without saying a word, just as this is possible through music. Anyone who considers dance to be incompatible with all that is holy and believes that dance opens the door to evil or to sin is mistaken. Such people simply project their own dark shadows onto something that is basically completely neutral. Since 1966, I have traveled with my dance group to the places in Europe where the oldest dances are still performed in their original form. In many countries, the saints' days are celebrated with dances after the church service. But now let us take a look to our dances, the ones we call sacred dances. When I first received that invitation to Findhorn, I had a happy presentiment. There I felt in Findhorn I would find virgin territory, ready for me to plant the beautiful circle and line dances of ancient Europe. I went straight to the heart of the matter and took advantage of the receptiveness of the dancers. I selected the mystery play Hymn of Jesus from the Acts of John in the Apocrypha. There, in those hidden scriptures, we read of Jesus telling his disciples to form a circle with him, to hold hands, and to make an act of farewell before his capture. Jesus went into the center of the circle and in 28 verses shared his deepest thoughts with them. With that, my first choreography here, I tried to plant the seed of a sacred dance happening. I also have over the years danced and celebrated this mystery play with several groups according to Bernard Wosin's original instructures and writings. Then Bernard Wosin. In the following year, we did the mystery play Theseus in the Labyrinth and the choreographic, oh my God, interpretation of the five-pointed star, the pentagon, and From Cross to Crown. The original handwritten notes and lectures of these last two dance cycles I published. The pentagon together with a CD and also From Cross to Crown. The pentagon is an ancient symbol for man who, in our time, enters a new age, the age of Aquarius, who is usually depicted as a man pouring water from a jug, and the new age, however, is the age of man. The flowing water is time. He pours it into the space where the Son of Man appeared in our world, on this earth. Thus, the foremost aim for us all today is to know that we human beings are called to find our true destiny. Since ancient times, men of the new age has been depicted as a praying being with wings, as it is said. The fear of God is the beginning of all wisdom. That means prayer is the deepest wisdom because through prayer we come nearer to God. Prayer is also the highest form of art because it can reveal to us the greatness of creation and also the most noble form of work. Work and prayer are one. Work brings freedom through discipline and strengthens the powers of sacrifice. However, those three qualities ascribed to prayer since ancient times are not independent of each other. Without disciplined work, I cannot create art. And without art, I don't create and don't gain the tidings of wisdom. So our prayer should be our dance, not only in the silent steps of the Andante, but also in the joyful leaps of the Allegro Vivo. This, dear friends, gives us the wings of the new age. Therefore, it has been my great aspiration in Findhorn to teach and to implant in the course of long workshops a large number of those dances which show their religious origin through their forms and symbolic content. At this stage, I'd like to say something about the symbol of the circle. The masters knew that the circle is a microcosm of cosmic space. We all originate from the circle. Every point in the circle is a turning point. Each point, each of us in the circle, has the same distance from the center, from the main focus. Here I have to add a little story. Every year, Wosien came to the Netherlands and mainly taught at my Institute Damien. It's Institute for and in Movement. He had brought a new dance that he called Light Prayer. When he danced it with us, he would sometimes raise his arms in 5 bars, next time in 3 bars, and then in 7. So we had to keep looking at him all the time. When I reminded him of his remarks about the circle, eliminating hierarchy, he was upset, and the dance was cancelled. When Wosien visited me, or us again after 2 months, he said, beaming with joy, Friedel, I have a new dance. Everything is in 4. As we dance anti-clockwise, the clock shows us the course of the sun from sunrise to sunset. We move towards the sun, towards the light. So our right hand becomes the receiving hand with palm up, and our left hand is the giving one with palm down. The left hand passes on the light and at the same time assures us of our connection from the Latin religio, thus remaking the chain which shows the sacred origin of our dances. And for me, this is one of the most important sentences of Bernard Wosien. He said, out of the silence of the attunement. We were very impressed then in Findhorn that people who had a special task or before we started to dance, we were just silent and joined hands. This never happened here in Germany before he went to Findhorn. And he was very impressed by this. And he said, out of the silence of the attunement, an idea was born in my heart, not in his head. So our movement is really a movement of the heart. The idea of meditation of the dance as a walking into silence and as a meditation in movement. Bernard has written 3 poems, and the one we all know is Thou who movest the world, now deeply movest me. He wrote another one, How I Came to Dance. And the third one was especially and only for me. And I was, of course, very thrilled and proud that he wrote a long poem for me. And after a while, when I read Bertolt Brecht again, I found out that he had stolen it there and just changed it. So sometimes it's not so nice to know everything. But I thought he would sit down and be, the poet and write this especially for me. But it was Bertolt Brecht. Still, he dedicated it to me. So then this song, or this first, it is the poem, Thou who movest the world, now deeply movest me, lifting me up high from earthly depth to thee. I dance a song of silence, my steps set to cosmic music, and guide my dance to the brink of heaven, made happy by thy smile. Uli Führer, with whom I worked for many years, is a well-known musician and a composer. He composed this poem, put it into music, and it was his present to my 60th birthday. And it was, of course, a measure of my heart to then choreograph it. And I think Brant will show us.
Tief greifst du mich und hilfst mir.
I come back to the attunement, and Bernard Wosien said, with such attunement in our sacred dances, we have an aim, and the aim is healing. This means doing, a personal striving for development. On our journey together, we want to experience awareness, not least self-awareness, and to discover life within the community. All this naturally has a therapeutic effect. It is an esoteric path, in Greek, esoteros chodos, the inner path. This is, of course, not a new path. People have followed this path since ancient times, human beings searching for the meaning of life. This path will never become outdated, however complete dedication is required by the seeker. For the answer to the question about the meaning of life is also the answer to the question about the laws of the world, which on all levels run in circles. But whoever seeks healing is in some way also a sufferer. Living in a highly industrialized society and with a so-called scientific education system, we all suffer from being separated, from a loss of unity. Mind, body, and soul are no longer in harmony. There's a dangerous imbalance between reason and conscience. Our innate human skills we have handed over to the artificial agents of our minds. Over millennia, we have developed very many skills and handed them over to machines. Now we can operate a lever and set in motion a row of robots which can produce technical objects with much more precision than any human workmanship can provide. Machines were developed to enrich and broaden our lives, but they have not brought us wish fulfillment, happiness, and contentment. On the contrary, they have brought increasing stress, pressure, neurosis, mental illness, and suicide. Man has made his own logical, rational, measurable world, a purely scientific conception of it. The achievements of science are fantastic, but they are also one-sided. There is an opposite pole to all that is measurable and functional, the immeasurable. And human beings possess both of these poles. The crisis of our existence stems from a way of thinking, a mental attitude that tries to save humanity with the help of one-sided rational knowledge, surrounded by the functionality of perfect actions. On my way to mastery of the dance, I gained the fundamental understanding that dance, as the most ancient expression of art, is an esoteric path, as I already said. The work of the dancer takes place on her or his instrument, the dancer's own body. It is work from within based on God's image, according to the esoteric maxim, as above, so below. It means that as dancers, we work on the very basis of our understanding of ourselves as creatures made in the image of God. I want to repeat this. On my way to mastery of the dance, I gained the fundamental understanding that dance, as the most ancient expression of art, is an esoteric path. The work of the dancer takes place on her or his instrument, the dancer's own body. It is work from within based on God's image, according to the esoteric maxim, as below, so above. It means that as dancers, we work on the very basis of our understanding of ourselves as creatures made in the image of God. Here, of course, Bernard Wosien is referring to the classical training, the méditation en croix. And I wrote, you can read about it in his own book in English. And I have my book, Tanz und Klang und tiefe Stille, Dance and Sound and Deep Stillness. And now my last one is From Cross to Crown. And he ends this speech with, because it was Easter, at the Last Supper, Jesus Christ broke bread and sanctified the body by saying, "This is my body." For Jesus, the body was the temple, which he had prophesied would be destroyed and rebuilt in 3 days. So that was his speech. And now I come to my book or booklet, From Cross to Crown. Everyone who deals with meditation of dance, sacred dance, who is enthusiastic and inspired by it, knows about the basics, namely the classic training and the 3-step path of initiation. Often people have questions in this context. That is why I wrote about the symbolism of the cross in the booklet, From Cross to Crown, accompanied by a CD with classical music for Méditation en Croix. And it also includes backgrounds about the choreography by Saskia, Worlds of Light. It also includes thoughts about the exercise and exercises for classical dance by Bernard Wosien, as well as photos from Bernard Wosien. You will soon see some, which are published for the first time, these photographs. And it's also an article by Saskia, Classical Training in Connection with the Planets, because Bernard when he was teaching classical ballet, we had on Monday, it is the moon, so we had adagios, and on Wednesdays we had quick steps, and so it was Mercurius, and we had pas de deux on Friday, and so it was all in connection with the planets. And Saskia writes about this, and then I write about the planetary cross and the 7th-fold cross, and basic ballet terms, arm position, etc. And it includes the dance cycle From Cross to Crown by Bernard Wosien. He had already in his mind a dance ritual to the music of Beethoven, Prometheus. I should dance Aurora, and when we were in Stockholm, we bought blue glass pearls for my costume. When we wrote to Findhorn, his suggestion was turned down with the comment, "We are a working community and we cannot allow the dancers to spend much time for rehearsals. And by the way, the other members could get jealous." So he was asked to use folk dances the Findhorn people already knew. He was very disappointed. And there's another quote by Bernard Wosien about the classical training, and that we had in 1979 in Schloss Grafenegg in Austria. And this was an intensive course for people who were advanced dancers. Here is an exercise handed down in a rare, unbroken form from antiquity. A practical master training, not just a theoretical one. This is one of the oldest meditations in Europe. Here one learns all possible structures and radiations as a meditation on the cross. It's a quote by Bernard Wosien. And now I'll show you some photographs. As I said, I published them now for the first time. They were made by Bernard Friedel and Bernard Wosien. Here he is standing in a first position. Yes, and then you can go on. And there is first position demi-plié, so a half plié, bend. Yes. And Brant plié, heels from the ground. And then in first position, relevé, and the arms are in fifth position, la couronne, the crown. He also said when we did prayer to the light, he said, we have the crown and open to heaven because we cannot put the crown ourselves on our heads. The crown must be given to us from the other side. So that, yes. And then here Bernard Wosien and I are in a third position. And the next is in dégagé, third position. Arms are in the fourth position. And this is an exercise. You will see now Saskia doing it. This was a very special training by Bernard Wosien. I've never had it with other teachers. And you will see now Saskia doing it because she has been trained by Bernard Wosien too. And she has, this training is part of a very complex choreography of hers, which is called Desiderata. So we show you now, Saskia. Bambery. at my birthday party for about 100 people. That was my students organized this festival for me. There was Kazana. She is also a master student of Bernard Wosien, and she did exactly this training because it is so very special for Bernard Wosien. She did this also, and Saskia danced with a group, the teachers, the Desiderata. Yes, and I want to say some things about dances of Bernard Wosien. For example, the sun dance. I read it to you. That is what the legend what Bernard Wosien told. A member of the order of the Mevlevi dervishes was raised to a new level of knowledge by the master, the sheikh. During the raising ceremony, he was taught a secret and charged to retain silence on this divine secret, to meditate and live in the spirit until he would be raised in to higher levels. But this was too difficult for him to keep the silence about this task. And so he went to a well and he set it into the well. And it's not only the water heard it, but also the, what you call it, the reed that was next to the well. And from reed you make flutes. So Bernard says, because the dance he choreographed it to the flute concert from Johann Sebastian Bach. He said, when we dance the sun dance to Johann Sebastian Bach's flute concert, God's voice speaks through the flute to us as well, reminding us of our own deeper secret and our mission in life. So therefore the sun dance, I was once asked, he said, what do you think is the most important dance? And you see, sun dance was called breathing circle in the beginning, because we go in and out. And see, usually Bernard Wosien, when he was teaching, there was a lot of noise and very lively. So then I asked him, would you please do either the sun dance or balance? I said, you like that? Yes, I do. And you see, in Munich, except Pisana and Marburg, people thought, well, he's getting old now, because what is this now? Because they were used to lively folk dances. And in Munich, also classical ballet, not in Marburg. And so when he came to the Netherlands, he always had to do the classical training. He also had to do 8-pointed star, which is absolutely classical ballet, and also sun dance and all these meditation dances, or dances, Meditation des Tanzes. And you see, then when he was in Findhorn, he did Enas Mythos. And Enas Mythos, there are a lot of stories about it. But there's one thing, it were not the Crusaders. Nana Mouskouri was singing just a song, which was at that time very popular. And the song is called, I Want to Tell You a Legend, a Fairy Tale that we learned as children. Once upon a time, there was a man who went into the wilderness, and from then on he lived in the mountains of the Hunt. And out of hatred for the women, he did not go down to the village. And then it is said, she sings, I tell you another story. Once upon a time, there was a man without a home and without a hearth. He hated men, but he loved women, but he loved them all. So that is the song. So it has nothing to do with Crusaders. And there were also in the Netherlands, we had 360 people. So he made this song. Everybody knew the song by Nana Mouskouri. And so we joined hands and did this very simple steps. It's a meander, a Greek meander. And there was also a misunderstanding that we cross arms. This is very not typical for Greece. But it was a translation. It was said it is atypical, so a non-typical arm hold, hand hold. And then but it means non-typical, and it's a typical hand hold, which is not true. And then Bernard Wosien, as I told you, he liked to tell stories. So he said, listen to the drums and imagine there's the drums, and people all come together from all over the place. And sometimes it was Kos, sometimes it was Greece, it could be Rhodos, it could be any island, Greek island. But then people had heard once Kos, so it is Kos. No. He changed the islands as he just wanted to. And so then he said, you see, when they heard the drums, they all came together and they greeted each other. So it became a greeting dance. It came the dance of the Crusaders, lots of things. And also Friedel was very astonished when he heard all these stories. But Bernard Wosien, in the beginning, he always called it a meditation dance. And then this Enasmitos, because this music was so popular, the dance Enasmitos went through the whole world. It was danced in Australia, everywhere. That was actually the beginning, and not that somebody, as Bernard Wosien, made dances like a sun dance. Everybody thinks, oh, I can do simple dances too. But you must imagine, he could have a whole ballet group called the ballet on the stage, and the person like him cut down everything to a sun dance. He said the real artist knows the art of reducing the essence, and in a sun dance, it's really the essence. And some people think, well, these simple dances I can do myself, but then they do not realize what it meant for him to make for people who are not skilled, who hadn't danced before. And he takes classical music, nobody ever did that, and we joined hands and we were in a circle. That is something so great. Often people do not realize what that was. But again, it was then the flower power. And then unity was very important for him, and peace. He was, therefore, we do a lot of peace dances, and we dance. And then we had the Irish circle dance, King of the Fairies. You see, when Bernard Wosien came to the Netherlands, he would tell a story in Utrecht, or mostly he was teaching at my institute. He was telling a story. Then he went to Amsterdam, there was another story. And Utrecht, again, another story. And when he left, people started to fight who was right. That is always happens then. And I didn't say a word. I just waited until he came back. And I said, Master, could you please tell us a story about King of the Fairies? And then he told a complete other story. Because he was inventing these stories. You know, he was a painter also. And then so he painted always new stories. And so there was not right and I am right or you were right. No. And it's also when we went to Findhorn, then we were rehearsing, and then somebody asked, they had a little note here, and they said, ask Bernard Wosien, how often does he turn? So I translated, said, Bernard, how often do you turn? And he said, oh, he didn't like questions like that. He said, once. Then we did the dance and he turned twice. So people got so annoyed and confused. Friedel, he turned twice, didn't he? Yes, he did. But he said once, yes, he did. So just dance, you know. With Bernard Wosien, you always had to be prepared. Also when he did the great Chasapiko, he didn't number 1, 2, 3, he shouted, and then you had to know all these different figures. You see, you learned dancing with him. He was not a very great didactic person, I must say. And I want to say something about his very last dance, the dance of gratitude. When we were in Austria and when he made the dance of gratitude, then at the end, he got very sick, very sick. And then we were all worried about him. And he said, don't you worry. I'm overjoyed because this dance happened to me. He didn't say I choreographed or I made this beautiful. No, I said, I am so overjoyed that this dance happened to me. And it was dance of gratitude. And it was his very last dance. He didn't know at that moment that it would be his last dance. But I think it's also about his life gratitude that is very important. And I want to finish with, before we can live in the light, we should awaken to the inner light. Outside there is twilight and conflict, shadow and darkness. Within is light, and in that light, unanimity and harmony are revealed, where previously discord seemed to reign. Being one with the center of light of all beings is the goal of development and perfection and the meaning of life for all beings. And Herbert Hahn says, only when we think of light does my soul shine. When I think of light, does my soul shine. Only when my soul shines in the earth, is the earth a star. I must start again, I'm sorry. Only when I think of light does my soul shine. Only when my soul shines is the earth a star. Only when the star is a star, the earth is a star, I am truly human. Sorry for it. So that was, I wanted to finish with this. Thank you.
So Friedel, thank you for your wonderful talk and that lovely video of Saskia doing these positions. I didn't look at the video until I presented it tonight, so I seen it with everybody else at the same time, and it's just a beautiful video. The other video that never turned out very well, I apologize about that, was the weather, and so yeah, Friedel, maybe we open to, if anybody's got any questions, they can put their digital hand up. If there's anybody with questions at all, you can do that now. And if not, that's okay. Yeah. We'll just give that a moment or so. And Friedel, it was just wonderful to hear all those stories of Bernard and how we get closer to the roots. I'm fascinated by these exercises, and I hope one day to do them, hopefully with Saskia or you. And Friedel, you've also got a training course, haven't you, soon? You've got, would you like to say something about that? And I'll put your website down on the chat for everyone. I'm sure they know it, but I'll just put that down anyway. If you could just say something about your
training. Well, it is an intensive workshop. And there we really work on the basic things, and also with the ballet, but especially, you see, I don't want people to be the ballet dancers, but you know, to stand upright and to have lines. Bernard Wosien is always the lines you work on. You can see it with Saskia, and about awareness. And we have subjects so about love and longing, about stillness and movement. And so each day is 4 times we meet. And this is a very important part. We have done it in England. So Valerie, Alona, they have been there to do this training. And also we had a special training in England about symbols, the dances, because you see, it was very important for Bernard Wosien, numerology. So the first book I got from him about numerology was from Weinreb, Friedrich Weinreb, and the Kabbalah. And so, for example, when one day Bernard Wosien said, Friedel, I want you to choreograph a dance and I want to see, you are not talking, I want to see whether you understood my teachings. I would never have thought of making a dance or choreograph. He was there, he was the choreographer, not me. So it was the friendship dance. And in astrology, the 11th house is the house of friendship. So, and there is 33 bars. That number is, of course, which you also find in the Divine Comedy by Dante, 33. And so there's a lot of numerology in this dance. And then he said, yes, that is now from apprentice, you are now a journey woman, journeyman. And when I choreographed the Crown of Thorns, he said, now this is your masterpiece. And but I would never have thought to make dances or choreographed. Who am I? And well, it's now in the meantime 220 dances I choreographed. But it is also, for me, very important, the subjects. I never teach without a subject. So, and all the poetry, you see, it is, dance is also poetry. It belonged together in early times. It was also lyric. It's from the lyra, the instrument. With the Greek, it was always poetry, dance, music was one. And this is for me also, and especially in the attunement, there was always classical music and poetry. And a lot of dances are choreographed, inspired by lyrics. For example, Timeless Joy is a text by Hermann Hesse, and so, and a lot of Rilkes and so on. It is easier when you have just instrumental music. You can interpret it as you want, but when they sing something, then you want to express it symbolically, and not that I say, I don't hear you, can I see you there? Say, not pantomime, but how to express it symbolically. And this is very important in this intensive workshops, the 4 times that we come together, to explore the backgrounds, the philosophical backgrounds of the dances, and so.
We've got one question. I don't know if the person wants to come on screen. I take it because it's in the chat that you don't, so forgive me if that's wrong. I have a question. This is Carolina. I have a question about the dance steps of initiation, which is a dance that touched me a lot when I danced with you, Friedel, and Findhorn some years ago. Would you repeat, please, the story of this dance? Thank you.
Oh, yes. So as you heard in the story by Bernard Wosien, that it is an esoteric path, and the 3 steps of initiation is first, second, and third position. But the first, there is an instrumental music by Uli Führer, and then we dance it 4 times, and the 5th times it just stops in the middle, because that was choreographed for me. As Bernard Wosien said, probably I don't finish the last one. And you see, the number 4, we all will die. The 4th, the 4 is the number of the earth. But whether we finish our 5th, the 5th step, that means our spiritual path. As it is said, probably I don't finish the last circle, as Bernard said. The 4th, he finished. But then, while we had this last talk, and then it stopped, and he was in coma, and he didn't wake up anymore. And so when we have the arm movement, it just goes to our heart, and it is in the middle of the 5th turn. And then Joseph Rösli, another composer with whom I worked quite a lot, he has the song he composed, and there it ends. Am I a falcon, a tower, or am I a great song? So then it is for us, it ends with a question to ourselves. So there are two different ends of the dance. Is that okay for?
I think, yes. Yes, thank you very much, she says.
Okay.
There we go. You've made somebody happy, so that's great.
Yeah.
So I'll put myself on spotlight. And what we can do is we've got like say another 15 minutes or so. So if we tune out together, Friedel, and then people can chat to you for 10 or so whatever minutes and say what they need to say to you. How does that feel?
Yes, okay.
Good. Okay, so if we can take our hands across the globe, and I'll